Hey campers, Georgia, back in the man cave. Well, man cave, cottage, all over the place. Been doing a couple of little projects. And one of them I made a short on a couple of weeks ago. And that is, I made a thumbstick. Basically, an English gentleman's country walking stick. And they're very popular overseas. And it's called a thumbstick because of the way it's shaped and you hold it. It's a very natural position. So I made this thumbstick, and while I was doing it, I had to do something to it, which got me thinking, maybe I can do something extra with it than just a plain old thumbstick. Let's check it out. You can see it here. Look up my coffee. Cheers. 2CG mug. Good coffee. So here's the thumbstick, the original thumbstick, and it has a little copper thing on, help the bottom of the stick doesn't get destroyed too quickly, and just a regular stick I found. But then I found on another stick a branch like this. Actually, it was three. It was almost fork shaped. And I thought, if I cut out the middle, it's a thumbstick. But it was on a different piece of wood, and the piece of wood it was on was only about, this much longer. So I thought, how do I join these two? Originally, what I was going to do was do a fancy woodworking join and join the two pieces of wood and do it that way. And then I thought, if I'm going to join it to put this head on it, maybe I can make it so I can replace the head. So that was my plan. I'll show you some of the stuff I did to do the thumbstick on how I got to this point. And then I'll show you how I did another head. This one, a little different, a little odd, but was fun. So here's the thumbstick. I want to show you how this works. I'm just going to tilt this up. When you're walking, you hold the thumbstick like that. See where my thumb is? Sits right in that hollow. And believe me, it's really comfortable because it's a natural position. Your hand walks like this. And when you grab the stick, it's right there. See that? Very comfortable position. It's actually a great way to top your walking stick. Me and my thumbstick are going to become me and my something else. So here's what I did. So here we are in the man cave in the South 40. We're going to try and fix the issues I had trying to get this all together. So that's what we're going to do now. First thing what to do is get this stuff off. Now the trick is, which one do I put on the actual stick? I'm going to have to cut this to make it fit. So this is the one I want to put on, because I want to have to cut one once, and I can just use these for the other heads. So here you can see I took the spider off his head. I didn't like the spider, it was too rough, it didn't look very good. So what I did was I took a file and filed it down and then cleaned it up with some sandpaper, shaped it a little bit so it looks like it was never there. He's on there pretty solid. Now I'm going to fit the connector on. Now I've cut it down a bit to get the right size. It fits on there. Now I just got to clean it up all the way, so it's all the way in. And I'm just using my whittling knife here that I broke the point off, the horror, which I'm going to have to fix with my workshop. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, the rougher this piece is here, the better for the JB weld to hold this and the coupler. I just want it as flush up here as I can get it. The JB hold will fill it. It's going to be covered anyway, so you won't see the joint. And it'll be on there now. Now the trick is, how straight is it? Yeah, it looks pretty straight right there. Have the JB weld on. Now I'm just going to let it set. I think I'm going to bring him inside. It's a little cold in the shed here. Temperatures are dropping. Winter is coming. Now I did consider, by the way, this was the original skeleton that I bought. His head was on top there. So I decapitated him. Morning campers. Chilly Sunday morning. Sitting outside enjoying a cup of coffee. 2CG coffee cup. Anyway, working on the head. I glued it and everything. It's on there solid now. Now I need to trim down this guy and make it line up with all of that together. And you can see in there. And what I'm going to use to do that, I thought I'd try something different. A while ago I got a knife from BPS. Really nice sheath, by the way. And it's this guy. Friction folder. I think it's the only folder they have, but it's pretty cool and it's sharp. Although it's a friction folder, I was a little nervous about using it, but when you close this down, the way you hold it with your thumb keeps that blade there. Pretty safe and a good way to lock up. Have to trim the whole thing down. So I'm just going to work my way around. Oh no, had a little boo-boo. When I was drilling that hole in to mount the head, I kind of messed up. So when I was trimming it down, this is what happened. You can see I've been trimming it down and oops, look at that. I moved the drill around and the hole got a little big. So now I have a hole here. Is that a problem? Well, I'd rather not have done that, but there's a way to fix it. I'll show you a little trick if you have a boo-boo and you want to fill in a hole on a stick. I'm not too concerned about it because, like I said, I'm going to be putting wrap around you, just like I did on the other head, like that, and it's going to cover that hole. But I wanted to show you how I take care of things like that, just so that you know in the future. So I've got it trimmed down and you can see the hole there. The other issue is that you're going to be able to see the JB weld here. Now I'm going to trim that down a little bit more, but the way I fix this is going to help me here as well. So I need to cover that up because, well, you want to make it look one piece. Okay, you can see I've trimmed it down a bit, Jan, the hole. What I'm going to do, because I need to fill in that hole and it needs to look kind of the same, I'm going to use a file and sandpaper to clean this up. All the stuff that comes off, I'm going to catch on a piece of paper. You want to use the same piece of wood so that the coloring is going to be the same. When I'm done here, I put in an acrylic varnish or whatever you want to call it over everything, which preserves it and gives it a little bit of strength and stops damage and chipping and stuff when you're done with it. So that's what I'm going to do now. Gather up all trimming off of this from the file and the sandpaper, put it in a pile, drop in that acrylic coating, mix it up so it's like a paste, and you put it in here. The acrylic is clear. So what'll show through is the color of the wood. And you just fill in the hole and cover up what you want to. And then you can clean it up afterwards, sandpaper it down. Hopefully, it won't be so obvious. Just sandpaper here. I have a lot to take off here, and to sandpaper it's going to take forever. So I'm going to get a file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep turning it because I want to keep it round. So there now you can see I've got it pretty much where I want it to be. When I'm done with it and cleaned it up and it's nice and smooth, it'll be a little closer and cleaner. You can see the file marks on it, so I've got to get rid of those. And that hole's growing as I go. So I want to fill it. And I'm going to put some around here as well. And then you're not going to actually see this, but I wanted to show you how this works. This is going to be landing up the same as that. Maybe not the same colors, and I'll show you how to bind that on. So you can see all the filings that came off. Now I'm going to put those in something and mix it with this stuff, which is what I'm going to use to finish off it. You want to put enough in there so that when you mix it, it mixes well, because if you have a bunch of that, the wood together, when you file it down, they're going to fall out and break up. You'll end up with little holes. See here you can see I have a good mix in there now, just making sure it's mixed well. And now I'm going to fill the hole. Just like that. Now when this dries, it dries clear. So you got to remember that it's designed to bring out the color of the wood. So when you're all said and done and you do the finish on it, it should look almost the same. And you can be generous with it. When it dries, you can file it down and see. So there you can see I've filled in the hole. And I want to cover up this stuff. So now I'm going to let it sit and dry. This will dry pretty quickly. This stuff dries quick enough where after a couple of hours, you can actually work with it. I like to leave it longer. They say for it to fully cure takes 24 hours. So I'm going to leave it a little bit longer, let it all dry, and then clean it up. It's been sitting around here drying off now. It's been a couple of hours. Ideally 24 hours. Well, it's been about 6 or 7, and it's more than hard enough for me to work on right now. You can see here, got all the stuff on there. Here's where the hole is over there. Kind of shrunk into the hole, but we'll see what happens when I clean it up. Like I showed you before, you can see the file marks on the wood there. I got to get rid of that. So it's really fun, and that'll be used to finish it. And then I think I have some heavier, but this is pretty good rough sandpaper. It'll get me through. But initially I'll use the file. So let's have at it, and I'll file it down a little bit and then sandpaper it, and then we can have a look to see how well it works. I'm going really lightly with it because if it hasn't cured properly, I might pull off some chunks. I'm just getting off the big spots so that I have less sandpapering to do. And I might even have to dig some out because I kind of filled in some of the neck. I want to clean that up a little. Some neck bones sticking out. Let's try and round it off a little bit more here. Okay, yeah, you can see I've cleaned it up a bit, but I'm a little worried about this here. Well, I'm not really worried, but if it wasn't going to be covered, I would probably redo it. It obviously shrunk into it. But like I said, there's going to be a wrap over there. I don't think it's a big deal, but I wanted to show you the idea of filling in a hole or something like that. This has to be cleaned up so it's a little bit more rounder. I don't want it perfectly round because the stick it goes onto is not perfectly round. I want it to kind of match. Mary has decided to join us. Say hi to Mary. Checking everything out again. Up the top here is the area that I'm more concerned about and cleaning up to get all that mess out. The heads I made them smooth, so I want to be consistent. No more file marks, it's pretty smooth. And here you can see the filler. Now, like I said, it did shrink in a bit. But if you worry about this dark color here, that's easy enough to get rid of. And what happened was the JB did a little dirty on the hole there, so it showed up. But next time I'd be more careful. Although it's not going to make a big difference because I plan on staining this wood. It's a little bit too light. Just a stain like that. It's a fairly light stain. This is called Provincial. And I'm going to stain all the wood. Actually, I'll put it over everything normally. That'll cover it up a little bit more, the stain, and then with the sealer on top. It'll be not very noticeable. So now I've got to clean up this part of the neck. This time I'm going to use my Mora. Why? Because I can. It was the most convenient one to get. So I'm going to use that. It's got a nice point on it. It's really sharp. It is a Scandi grind. It's not really a carving knife, but they're nice to play with. They're pretty general purpose. So what I'm going to do now is get rid of that stuff that got in the bone shaping on the... So as you can see, I just cleaned it all out so that it's a little bit better transition from the wood to the skull. Then we're going to put some stain on it and maybe make it look nice. The problem I'm having is looking at the skull like this, you got all this different colors and you got this gray, which is kind of a dilemma, but at the back it's pretty obvious. Just play with a little bit more. I'm no artist. I'm I'm an amateur at that stuff. I just like to do it yourself and whittle away and just have some fun. So here you can see I cleaned up the neck bones and that, took out all that excess stuff. I put on that stain, which has made the wood a little darker. So now it goes like that on. Now I'm going to wrap it. I'm going to show you how to wrap with that string. It's a pretty cool trick. I saw it on TA Outdoors, and I've been using it since for all my wraps, especially when I'm wrapping like 550 cord or something like that. I think I'm just going to go red and white because I can't really think of a nifty Halloweenish color, and it's really, I don't want it just for Halloween. I would like it for any time. So here is the trick. You're going to get yourself a long piece of cord. So now we're going to wrap, and what we're going to do is you make a bend in your line like this that you're going to wrap, and you're going to put it on here, and you want it to be above where you're going to wrap up to. Now I'm going to be wrapping from the bottom up. So the trick here is this. When you wrap, you want to make sure that you're going to wrap over here and go around. Otherwise, it's just going to come apart. So you want to hold that like that. And I'm going to bring it over the top of this piece. Hold it there. And I'm going to go around. Whoops. That first time around, I'm going to hook it back over itself. I don't know if you can see that. See, the wrap is there, and I'm going to hook it back over so that when I pull tight on this, it's going to hold this piece in. It's not going to unfold. Hopefully you can see that. It'll be obvious if you don't do it right because it'll just come apart. So I'm going to go over that. I'm coming around and I'm tightening it onto itself, and I'm going around. And I'm going to keep going around. This is going to get in the way, so I'm just going to tuck it in there. And I'm going to keep going around. Just like that. And keep going until I'm up to where I want to be. So you want to keep it reasonably tight on there. Now you can see I have gaps, and you want to push that down and fill those gaps in. Push it down nice and tight. And it'll keep it nice and even all the way around. And it keeps some tension on here so you can see what I'm talking about. Now I don't have any gaps in the wrap. And you want to keep doing that as you go around. And like I said, keep that tension on it, because if you don't, it'll come apart. I mean, when you wind it, you want to try and get it as close as you can. Now my hands are dirty and I'm doing the white thing, which is going to make the white thing not so white. I don't care because I want it to look rustic, if you want to say that. Got to get those gaps filled in. And I'm about to run out of line. And it just so happens to be pretty close to where I want it. I got lucky there guessing on the length. So now I'm going to push this all together. Make sure there's no gaps. Don't want any gaps. So you got it nice and tight like that. Now you're going to take this piece and through the bottom of the loop. Just like that. Now comes the important length bit on this. When I pull on this, that loop's going to pull in underneath there and pull this piece in with it, hopefully. And you can see as I pull, and it pulls it right into it. You see that? It's pulled it right in. Now I can just take the knife and trim that off, trim this side and that side, and it'll hold itself together without cutting anything else. And now you can see the wrap. I'm trying to focus here so you can see it. Now I'm going to do the red, doing the same thing again and bringing it up to about there. And there you have the wrap. Not perfect. This is a bushcraft thingy that they use for wrapping wood, wrapping two things together tightly, that sort of thing. And if you like to fiddle, I use it for this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave this the way it is, but I'm going to I'll eventually cover it with this stuff over there. Because after a while, this will start to come apart. It's, things stretch and get old and weak. To hold it in there, I'm actually going to soak this with this acrylic, which will keep it together and hopefully it'll last longer. Still got to figure on the paint on this one. I think I might do that now before I do this. So I have some acrylic paint. It's from a paint set that I got at Walmart. It was just a cheap paint set I saw, and I thought, well, I'll try that. I'm no artist, like I said, but I do persist. So I've got the paint here. I'm just going to do a quick test run here and see how it goes on. So let's see. I'm glad to see it's not extra bright. Did not want that. I wanted it to be a little bit more subtle than really white. And anywhere there's like wear marks on the teeth, I'm leaving him there. I'm not filling them in. Obviously his teeth are not going to be perfect. He's a skeleton. He's been around a while. I like how subtle the white looks. So there you have him there. I'm wondering, hopefully this will come off if it doesn't work. Well, here goes nothing. This may need a couple of coats, I think. I don't know what I'm doing. That's why it's called do it yourself. So I put that white paint on the back and it lightened it up a lot. But I think it's a little bit more consistent now. This is acrylic, and I think what I'm going to do is let this dry, hopefully smooth it up a little bit more. I missed some spots here. We can fix that. So you can see them now. Now these dark spots around here, this is called dry brushing, which is basically what I'm doing with this. But the trick is you get some paint, rub it in to a piece of paper, and then dry brush. Just whack your brush over there like this, and it takes away all the sharp edges. And it produces some really good highlights. Around his eyebrows there, it's a little sharp. So I'm going to try and get rid of that sharpness. So there you go there. And then you have the bullet hole, which I want to clean up a little bit more. So that's basically him now. Now what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to put that acrylic all over it. I think just leaving it the way it is right now, I kind of like it like this. Now, one thing I do want to try, so I've got some of the acrylic here, the stain, this Rust-Oleum stain. Doing the same thing, dry brushing. I'm going to take away a lot of the too much highlights just by swatting over it like this to give them a kind of old and rusty look. Because I thought the whites, I want to keep his teeth white. Everything else can go a little darker. So there you have it there. It's kind of hard to see. The light is pretty harsh, but it has darkened it a little bit. And I think I'm going to keep doing that and see how it works. Wherever there's a little bit too much light, I'm dyeing it down because I want the teeth to be more obvious. So there you have it there now, which I think is a little better. So you can see the eyebrows here were really standing out too much. So just by dry brushing it with the wood stain has toned them down a little bit. So there you go. We're about there. I'm not going to do any more. So there you have it there. Let everything dry. Let him sit there and dry. This stuff, which will seal it all up, hopefully. And we'll have another head for the walking stick. Yay for George. So I covered the head with the acrylic. I put on 2 coats and it's finished now. And I know it's been a long video, but I wanted to tell you something. And that is, a lot of the times I watch a video and I feel like they didn't show me some things that I really wanted to see. So when I tell a story of what I'm doing, I like to share what I'm doing. I enjoy what I do. The things I make and play with and do are what I enjoy. And I want to share that enjoyment with you. Editing the video too much, I feel, misses some of the points that I'm trying to put across. Give you hints and tips and things that I've learned to do. For example, the dry brushing. Growing up, I built plastic models, military models, tanks, jeeps, that sort of thing. Kid stuff, boy stuff. And I kept at it for the longest time. I haven't built one in probably 6 years. And I would paint them. And wanting to make them look authentic, I had to figure out to get away the sharp edges, because then it looked like the uniform was spotless, so you dry brushed it with some darker color. That's where I learned dry brushing and painting. I'm no expert, but little tips like that I think will help people when they're doing their projects of what they want to do. That's why my videos are so long. I feel I can't take that out. I've got to put that in. And it makes it longer. And I appreciate you guys watching it. So let me show you the end project. Here it is here. And it's, I got the acrylic on and you can see it all there. The bullet hole. Let me try and shade it a bit for you here. And you can see dry brushing really helps. And the teeth are just wide enough to show up. And of course, this stuff here, I learned bushcraft. I use all those things to do stuff I like to do. And here's what I like to do. So I have a thumbstick with a thumbstick handle with a skull head now, which I think is pretty cool. If ever I'm doing something, whittling or something like that, when I'm sitting around with a piece of wood, or I find something lying around or see something, I might be able to make another head for this. Eventually have, 2,000-3,000 of them. Kidding. But if I see something that catches my attention, it's going to become a head to my thumbstick. Variety. It's the spice of life. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. You know the story. Pretty sure I'll be back. Oh, I don't know. Winter's coming. I have one more camp with Lee to go on this week, and then it's going to be too cold. The snow's coming in. It's going to ice up. Ice fishing. Yep. Going to do some ice fishing, some snow trudges. Looking forward to winter this year. Got a lot of things planned. Oh, spoiler alert. Just saying. You all be safe out there. Take care now. See you again soon.